grew up in the shadow of these events, this takeover. If you're going to look at an image or a family, we don't have a royal family in America. A lot of people get wound up in this as though we're going to get saved by a royal family that is going to save us all, that's going to come protect us. And if we just wait, that benefactor is going to make sure we're all taken care of. Bullshit.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally. This is Americans working together to take their country back. We are all. If you want to say there's something in the spirit where a person maybe personifies an idea, or a damage that was done, I get that, and that's a beautiful thing to add that imagery to it. But the reality is, we were all standing on the roadside, watching these events go by. We're all in the same category, and we're all grew up in this. We're now adults, and we're going to behave like adults and take our country back. That's the whole theme point of what I've been trying to say all along, and I don't want to twist it from that. So I'm sorry for the long answer, but you asked a important question. I wanted to give it a serious answer.
Yeah, but totally okay. Listen, I want to give kudos to Amy Seaver. Go follow her at amyseaver.com for putting me together with 107. This is historic. Am I allowed to make 107 laugh?
Well, I laughed.
I'm going to make you laugh. I watched about 5 months ago. I watched an interview that was so amazing with Nino Rodriguez and Kerry on her channel. This video has never surfaced anywhere other than on Kerry Cassidy's channel on Project Camelot. And I'm watching this interview, and I got to tell you the truth. Nino Rodriguez was completely convinced at this point. By the end of that interview, Nino Rodriguez was completely convinced that you are JFK Jr. And the next day, he has you on his show. And I'm saying, oh my God, here we go. He's going to confront them. Because he was saying things like on her show, I'm going to grab him by his in a headlock, and I'm going to try to pull the mask off. I guess you guys know each other on that level. So, I mean, when you start to watch this stuff and you start to really understand what all of this is, and all of a sudden you see a guy like Nino Rodriguez, and then he doesn't say a word, it had me scratching my head. You can understand why.
Yeah. I've never spoken of it and won't for the time being. There's a relationship there, but I'll have to save that for another day. That's off in the future, and we'll leave it at that for now.
Right. So here's the thing. There's a lot of talk supposedly that the militia is now in contact, working in cohesion with the army. Do you know anything of the sort?
You have a lot of people that have a military background, military history, and certainly have active relationships, though they may be retired or in some type of a guard type role, who certainly know people doing stuff at more of a local or homegrown level. I think it would be hard to separate some of those relationships, and that one is aware at some level of what is being done in other areas is a little bit more difficult to slice and dice. And so, it then becomes shades of gray. Well, does that mean it's an active, sponsored relationship? And then, of course, you have National Guard and State Guard, all sorts of other things. I think it's foolish to think that there isn't some, relationships there, but whether or not it amounts to, active participation nationwide and everything else, that's not what's going on.
Gotcha. Okay. There is a lot of activity going on. This is a silent war. I think I don't have to tell you that. You know that better than anybody. And for the people who are in the movie theater, and we do spend 17 hours a day watching these things and, trying to connect all the breadcrumbs, et cetera. Look, we would love to see Congress in handcuffs. Do they belong in handcuffs? Absolutely. The Supreme Court justices, do they belong in handcuffs? Absolutely. This Brothers case that we're not even allowed to mention their last name now, because unfortunately, it looks like YouTube owns the last name, and some channels have gotten shut down by using that last name that starts with the letter B and ends with the letter N. Okay. My question to you is, we got 5 more appeals on this. After the Americans got the biggest kick in the balls, as far as I'm concerned, what is these 5 appeals? What do they actually mean?
Well, there's a whole bunch more to that story than than people realize right now. Laura Logan is going to be doing a interview with all four brothers in Utah. It'll be filmed Saturday, I think, this weekend, and available sometime next week over on Ben Swan's network. And he was a former Fox newscaster. And so that's my understanding that that's what's going to happen at this point in time. And so a lot of those questions are going to be answered right there. But let me just say this. The reason that the court would reject something like this is it might not fit with precision what they are comfortable with, other things that they've done. So the appeals can address questions on the part of the court. One of them is standing. And there's, the court may not want to take it based on the way that it was presented for the brothers on standing and based on other court decisions that have occurred before. So what can happen is you can get a little bit of a modification that then clarifies that or modifies that a little bit to where the court's happy. It's a case of first impression. No case like this has ever actually come before the court precisely. So anything the court does must be very carefully considered, and so that there's slightly doing, and there's a lot of room on this to move on. And by the way, I have a meeting with a number of current and former congressional people occurring here in the next few days, where there's a desire to do another case. And I hope I'm not letting too much of the cat out of the bag, but we'd rather have 50 to 70 to 100,000 plaintiffs on that case and provide it slightly differently to resolve any issue of standing county by county across the country. So this subject matter of oaths and protection of the Constitution and its relationship to the citizens is not going away, and it's actually gaining ground. We're not, look, as Americans, we cannot allow through piddling little bites our country to be stolen from us right in plain sight, the way that has been happening. And we have to reassert ourselves that we own our country. Our government works for we the people. And to the extent that they think that they are free from obligation to the citizens and that we are their subjects just because they've somehow attained high office by one means or another, that does not give them the right to rule. We don't have royal families in America. We do not have bloodline rulers of our family and secret handshake clubs deciding who gets to rule the roost for the next few years, passed down through those business and corporate secret handshake educational institutional things. We're going to break that by God's grace and get back to a government of the people, by the people, for the people, period. That's the way it is.
Totally agreed. To me, this was a get out of jail free card for the Supreme Justices, and they don't have to go down to the Gitmo, to the Spa or Guam, which is, I understand there's multiple islands where there's trials going on, if you know what I mean. Does this delay in any way, shape, or form have to do anything with slowing things down for the quantum financial system? Jassara, I'm a big Jassara guy, been following it very, very religiously for a long time. And we built probably the holy grail of what's to come, QFS1776.com. Does this have anything to do with slowing everything down so that everything is running parallel correctly before they start turning on many switches, not just one? I think it does, based on what we're hearing from the bankers, people who are working in high-level banks, et cetera. I was on the phone yesterday or day before yesterday with my good friend, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, and she's connected to an admiral over in Reno, which is where one of the the quantum computers reside, and they say everything's a go. It's definitely gonna happen. So how do you answer that? I mean, do you think that there is a mechanism in place besides the lawsuit with Ripple, which I think is Kabuki Theater, designed to slow everything down?
Okay, you got a lot in there, and
yeah.
Let me just let's slow down for a minute for your audience specifically, and take some time here. This is probably where we need to kind of slice and dice quite a bit. And there's not many audiences where I get a chance to really have this conversation. and some of what I say may not, you know, mesh well with where you're at, but we're all friends. Let's just have the conversation, kind of work through this, and you know, where we disagree, we just agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, I think if I go through it correctly, you'll see that we agree more, far more than we disagree, and most with the way that it plays out and who's behind it, not whether it's going to play out. So, and I have a little experience on this. Just for those that don't know, you know, I did stuff related to the busting the ruble and
You're cracking up a little bit.
System. Oh, sorry. Should come right back. So, I mean, I got a little experience in this zone, probably more than most people out there. So, this is not territory unknown to me. Okay. So, within the Gasara Nasara and the quantum banking issues, there's no question we are headed for calamitous times, a calamitous moment. And it's not years down the road. We're here. But who's behind it and what does that look like? So we have to go back a ways. Remember, the intent was that Hillary was going to win. The fix was in.
Yes.
And once she got in office, there was a number of things that were all en route, on the rails, headed for this. You know, I loved when I was a kid, the Addams Family. And the one big thing that I think was my favorite thing was the train crash. So every few episodes, they'd have a thing where Dad and somebody, one of the kids or Uncle Fester or whoever, was going to have these trains going around the track and finally crash at exactly the right moment on the bridge, and it all falls into the river. And you know, on this home train set, they have it. So you just knew it was coming, and the train would be going around this way and that way and this other way, and then finally they crash. There's a lot of stuff that's been put in the pipeline, and it's been in place for a very long time. If you think that the thing just happened 2 years ago and it just came in out of the blue, then you haven't been paying attention.
Correct.
That was an operation that actually goes back at a bare ass minimum 30 years in preparation. Now that's a hard thing for most people to get their mind around. You know, they hear 5, 10 repetitive things. And in fact, there's another aspect of it that's in the pipeline now for 2 years out from now. So to make us comply with what they want, we're far from out of the woods on this. So when you look at the financial side, it's a similar thing. They had a plan that was scheduled for huge portions of what we're going to hit America that erupted in late 2018. And when Hillary didn't win, it screwed up their schedule. They had a nuke plan for Seattle a year before the election to the day. They had other things that were in the pipeline, including these regional wars. The nuke had been blamed on North Korea. We'd have had stuff going on over there. And so most people think in terms that aren't big enough, that don't encompass a large enough scale. You have a global operation. That's what Davos is about. A coordination of these various entities that are backed by a handful of families with the intent to move us systematically, relentlessly towards this global order. And that's been in place in this current phase for about 175 years. With that in mind, this financial thing that's been planned got thrown off the rails when Hillary didn't win. It got thrown off on the timing. And it's just like in your car. If your car gets out of time and things aren't firing at the right time, if the distributor gets thrown off, knocked out of time, or something goes wrong. I had a loose shaft in the distributor in one of my cars, and so it was wobbling inside the shaft, and so the timing was bouncing all over. You couldn't get the car to work right because it wasn't quite staying in time. That's similar to what happened here. Their timing is not firing right as it's supposed to, and their global machinery isn't staying in sync the way they intended. Uh, their Swiss watch timing isn't working quite right. With that in mind, I need also for everybody to understand when you're doing something of this magnitude, this scale, you have to make the people think that whatever they're participating in, it's their idea. When the devil taunts you to sin, he does so based on beguiling. He sneaks you into believing that what you're doing is your decision, and he gets you to do his will. Um, uh, the devil doesn't do it himself. The devil gets you to do it, so the bad karma is on you. Everybody that's being baited in to the financial mischief is, you're not going to pay taxes. They're not going to get you. You're not going to have to pay off your debts. They're not going to get you. Well, that sounds enticing to me. That sounds perfect. I'm in. What do I got to do? And so you're doing what they want because they've put the carrot in front of you, and then they put the stick behind you, hit you on the rump hard, and you're looking for an escape. 87,000 new IRS agents. Well, I got to get out of that. Where's the escape? Where's the escape? Okay.
Right.
So there it is. There's the open door. You're being baited and switched into their system and have been for a very long time. Even all of the information, how scary and dire it's going to be, and the mainstream media, you think that they're reporting accurately. They haven't reported anything to you accurately. That's part of the maze that you're in, where there's this control and ownership of what's there in the media to coerce you to the positions that they want. So within that framework, what are the true origins of Gesara Nasara? Look, those families that control the banking realm had it in mind, planned this a very long time ago. And it was with the intent to bait us into doing what they wanted us to do in the first place. So now, if I have agreement that it's not the way it was sold, that we were kind of conned into wanting to see this happen and how it was going to happen. Let me add this one little thing. For example, a lot of people with the Zim bonds and the dinar and other currencies, they're all going to get a gazillion dollars because the banking system that these monsters control, by the way, and international agreements regulate that they must do certain things in order to reconcile accounts. Well, if that's part of the con, then part of the rest of the con is just like any Ponzi scheme. Oh, but you've got to have a charitable this or that. You're only going to get to spend a percentage of that on yourself. So with that in mind, now you're, I apologize, I had a call that came in here. I had to send it to voicemail. With that in mind, now they control the institutional locations, and it's going to be a miracle. Amazingly, only their best buddies and friends had everything just right, had all the T's crossed, the I's dotted. It's a secret handshake route. It's a mob operation. They control the numbers that come up on the lottery in the bowl. You think it's totally just was happenstance that ball got pulled into the thing at that exact moment, but you're watching a magic act. The whole art of the magician is how to fool you into thinking that what you saw, the illusion that you just saw, was exactly what it portrayed itself to be. And you have to realize going into it, these are master magicians. In fact, in the intelligence community, from a very early age, the guys always wanted to show me their latest trick, their sleight of hand. They practiced it continuously. Why? Because that might save their life in the field. And it might save yours to know that you can't trust what you see completely, because the sleight of hand, it's amazing when you know how people react. It's just like when people tell a lie and their eyes go a certain direction.
Sure.
And when they're telling the truth, they go a different direction. And it's subconscious. You almost can't even control it, even when you're trained and with extensive training to get you to control those nervous reactions. And then it's a conscious thing to maintain that control. That's why you have to interview or interrogate people for a long period of time and break down their strengths. Because if a guy's really good, he can con you even on those physical, theological for a period of time, but they wear out, they wear down. Um, in the case of people within this audience, you have to think how strong the con, how much is thrown into this. Are they just coming at you in the financial community, or are they using other tools, the propaganda that you see in the media, the control of the conversations in the various social media? Just like you're mentioning, we can't even say certain words here, so we're so choked back that you think you know what's going on, but that's the whole point of a really well done con.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right.
Even the players in the con don't necessarily know. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There are people out there saying, "Oh, if you want to have your paperwork straight, you got to pay me $795, and we're going to tell you where the redemption centers is. We're going to make sure that all your I's are dotted, all your T's are crossed. You got to come see us. We're the experts." See, look, this is my argument, and I think you'll agree with this. If the planet Earth went through 5, transfers of wealth, and there's a company out there or a group that has experience in it, you could go ahead and make that kind of a claim. But to make that kind of a claim where we're going into the biggest transfer of wealth, and I can tell you the Jassara is very real because I've had people on my show. I got a show that I just did 8 days ago. The video's got almost 50,000 hits. It's very fresh. And I got people underneath saying, I had my college loan forgiven. I had my government loan forgiven. I had my mortgage forgiven. I had my second mortgage forgiven. And I've done 6 of these, and I've done, them to the extent to where I got more people coming at me now saying, hey, I want to come on your show. I want to prove that I've had debt forgiveness. Well, is it NESARA Jassara? I think it is. I think they're dropping little breadcrumbs. Just like when Donald Trump came down the escalator, the sign behind him, what did it read? I don't know if you even know, but it said currency exchange, breadcrumb. He goes and does a speech over at the RV company in Missouri. He turns around and says to Melania, I think we're going to get an RV. Yeah, a guy that does his business on 24 karat gold toilet bowls is going to get an RV. Not likely. Breadcrumb. He tells you we're going to give the power back to you, the people. Breadcrumb. These are all breadcrumbs. Basically, if you know how to read between the lines, and I know you're smart enough to read between the lines, Juan, but this game is going to be won by either the bad guys or the good guys. The technology is going to fall in the hands of the bad guys. It's going to be used for bad. The technology is going to be used for good if it ends up in the hands of the good guys. There's really no other way to slice it. Let's talk about 2024 a little bit, unless you want to answer that.
Well, I think let's slow down for a minute. I just want to make sure that people understand there's very real aspects to what we're talking about with the RV and things like that. By the way, why Trump? Why Trump? Why Trump? There's a bunch of candidates. Remember, Trump was invited to run.
Mm-hmm.
Who invited him? Who invited him? Okay, and what's their role all the way through this? Why Trump?
Yeah.
In fact, I just want to slow down. I want people to think about what I'm trying to help them with here.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's history was he went through several bankruptcies of his own in various of his corporations.
Yeah.
And came out of it swimmingly. Okay. Why? Because when he did the contracts, he isolated different portions of his holdings, his wealth. He had partners in those things, the casinos and other things. America's one big casino, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Yep.
And so what he did, you can say, well, he went bankrupt. He was a horrible businessman, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. These cycles and the bankers that loaned to him. There's a saying that the lender becomes the servant of the lendee, the person that's got the money once he's got it, because they got to get paid back. And so think about where Trump was at. The lenders, in his unique experience, instead of the banks liquidating everything and just taking a percentage of their proceeds, Trump negotiated with them and said, look, your best deal is this. You lend me the money. Okay, it's isolated. You're not going after the rest of my wealth because it's compartmentalized. So you're not getting it. Okay, it's this asset. That's what's at stake. And here's the people. I'm one of them because he has partners on all this stuff. He's come in and done it with other people. And the bank actually is a partner, or the lenders are a partner in those property transactions. So then he turns around and he says, look, you want to get all your money back, or the best percentage of it back, your best deal is to I might lose you one more time and then get right back. But so my point is that Trump becomes the best person for America in this bankruptcy moment. Look, Congress is out of its mind, out of control. A $17 trillion budget when we're really in the quadrillions of actual debt, and it becomes meaningless at some point in time. Even from a Nasara RV kind of a component. One of the things that people don't understand, if you're going to print gazillions of dollars to pay everybody off all this money and do all the charitable stuff, everybody's going to have a 747. Everybody's going to have a 50,000 acre ranch. Who's going to maintain that 747? And where's all the components going to come for it?
Well, it's a little bit more.
747 is costing $1 trillion. You know,
yeah, it's a little bit more involved than that. The humanitarian projects, because we're going from a situation of correcting a lot of wrongs. The humanitarian projects, I believe, are going to be real. The UBI, the Universal Basic Income, I believe, is going to be real. However, this is not going to be a free ride. People think they're going to just, sit home and watch Jeopardy for the rest of their life and eat popcorn, and that's it. They're going to get $5,000, $6,000 a month. That's not going to be the case. I strongly believe that they're going to have to punch into some kind of a website where there's going to be a lot of us that have too much money, and we will have humanitarian projects. What are you going to do with all that money? The money is going to cease to exist in the next 20, 30 years. That I guarantee you. So they're going to have to punch a clock somewhere and go work 20 hours and probably manage some of the humanitarian projects. We're going into a completely different world.
Part of the plan that they would like you to buy into is that you're going to get the social credit score. You're going to get some kind of money based on what you do. It's like the stuff that they pre-programmed you with in Star Trek and in other futuristic plots, where you don't work for money anymore. You work to get your social credit score up there to earn your vacation based on the things you do for society. And then some elite decides whether the things you've done are adequate to earn you access to the pleasure resort that you want to go to for a few weeks out of the year, or whether your family line is, the proper line to get an education at this or that level. Okay. And what they'll do is they will further reinforce the elite status of those families. This is a very serious thing that people need to understand, where they talk about you're going to have things or have access to things because of your personal achievements, intellect, etc. At the end of the day, no, it'll be a bloodline family elites, and occasionally they'll allow somebody in their screening process, and that's what these secret handshake groups are about. They're a screening process to find the candidates on two levels. One with aptitude that can be worked with, that may be able to add stuff because they grasp, understand, know things. And the other based on their willingness to integrate into their systems, to be compliant, to do things that they want done. And so the more compliant you are to their wishes, their methodologies, the greater that you're going to get access to move up through the ranks. And it's based on a different measure of performance than true, aptitude, genius, whatever. That's the reality of it.
That's if the elite would win. There's two players on the field. There's Jassara Nasara, and there's the clone, circus show, the Klaus Schwab. You'll have nothing, you'll be nothing, you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. That's not going to happen. See, when I realized that this quantum financial system, and you got the XRP army talking Klaus Schwab and the Kabuki Theater lawsuit and all this bullshit nonsense that means absolutely nothing. When I realized that there's another, player on the field, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. I could tell you the score is probably 100,000 to nothing. Okay, the enemy is bleeding profusely. In regards to there's a lot of misinformation out there. Like I just talked about, where people have to pay $795 because we got this self-appointed expert out there that says, hey, we're going to tell you where the centers are. We're going to tell you exactly how to present yourself. That's a scam. Okay, I will tell you flat out that is a scam. So there's definitely a lot of misinformation out there in regards to the Jassara Nasara. But I do believe that this Kabuki Theater lawsuit, this XRP lawsuit with Ripple, is a very, very big deal. I think that they are going to end up becoming the bank of last resort. They're going to merge with the Treasury. If you go down to Washington, D.C., I'm sure I don't have to tell you, Juan, everything is shut down. There's nobody home. The 87,000, supposedly agents that they're hiring, which is nothing more than a scare tactic. And I told everybody it's a scare tactic. We got Richard Citizen journalists taking videos of buildings that are, sitting on 3 hectares of land in, what you call it there in Maryland, IRS building on a regular day, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Nobody's home. The visitors' parking lot is empty. The parking lot is empty. The employee parking lot is empty. Nobody's home. You know what I mean? So I know
Yeah,
that
and
we're
you also
winning
got,
by a
by the
lot.
way, you got Corrine out there doing stuff for AMP, and she's doing good work, also showing similar. So Corrine's doing great work for people who are looking for
Yes.
other places too that corroborate this information. In fact, she and Richard Citizen Journalist cross paths fairly often. So
Mhm.
here's my point in all of that. The way that this has been done, it goes back to my buddies Gary Allen and Larry Abraham. Their book, which came out in the 60s, which actually was next to the Bible, the most published book in America at that time in the 60s. None dare call it conspiracy. And they portrayed it as a vice, where it's putting the people of the world, but at that time, the American citizen primarily, in a vice where they have you on the corrupt side of one side, the criminals in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You have the political and the financial on the other side, and they're squeezing the vice on America. Part of what, this is where I think our discussion is, to what extent is this Gazara Nazara RV, has it been in the plans of this group behind the scenes? And let me just use one example. Facebook was not invented by Zuckerberg.
Of course.
Facebook was a DARPA operation. It was the planning for it was done in 2008. The actual report that was put together, laying out what the requirements were for a project to get a toehold into social media, was outlined and completed in 1988. It was funded and began in 1989. It was a 5-year project. It was completed in 2004. And on February 4th, 2004, which has ritual meaning, it's a breaking the 8 number. I've talked about that before. Very ritual from an occult side. The whole of DC, all of the operations are done on the numbers over and over and over and over again. So that's one of the clues when you want to look at who's behind it and controlling it. So now I use Facebook as an example. They're what I call corn, all of those players. Zuckerberg didn't invent it. Remember the court case where Winklevoss was sued. Now think, if Zuckerberg didn't invent Facebook, neither did the Winklevoss twins. Come on, man.
Of course. It's just like Bitcoin.
Why?
Bitcoin was
I'm
created
getting there
by
in a
DARPA.
second. There in a second. I'm on my way right there. So I want people to think about this. When the Winklevoss twins lawsuit occurred, that was kabuki theater also, because neither of them invented Facebook. It was a DARPA operation. Who had the authority, the legal access, the opportunity to crown Zuckerberg king, worth hundreds of billions of dollars ultimately, and put him there? And then, just like a card game, 21, where you get dealt a couple of face cards, and you decide, well, I'm going to double down, I'm going to split the bet. They had so much money in Facebook, they wanted to drain some off, so they have the illusion of a court case to legally flow some money off to other candidates. And what did they do with that money? They went into Bitcoin, and they didn't just go into investing in a few coins. They invested in the computers and the location up there in George Washington to be able to get the cheap energy with, again, just like Facebook got super deals on servers and processors because they were doing work with the government behind the scenes. Facebook hit the ground running. They got government contracts right off the bat to manage and observe and control social media through the Facebook system. And the advertising money was from other partner operations in order to make it look legitimate and pump the price. The same exact thing is what you're talking about in these cryptos. Bitcoin was a DARPA operation. And remember, how do you make the coins? You have to mine for them. It's done in computer processing time. Well, if you have access to cheaper power and you have access to the faster servers, you're always going to be ahead. The intelligence agencies, the 3-letter agencies, always have. And by the way, when they placed, let me just give you a comparison. This has been going on for a very long time. When in the early days of nuclear power, the work to separate and make heavy water, the nuclear isotopes necessary to make a bomb. What they had to do is, in those early days, they did it with centrifuges, like where Iran and others are doing it, with very cumbersome, very tedious, took huge amounts of power. We didn't have the skill sets that the Germans developed with laser isotope separation. That's what was going on actually up at in Germany at some of the camps and some of the cover fort, some of the camps where they're actually making the nuclear material. And we had enough material for part of a bomb. It was the nuclear material that we got in trade-offs with Nazi scientists to take him into custody, where we got the rest of the nuclear material. The Japanese, after the first bomb at Hiroshima, said, you don't have enough for another bomb. And so we had to do another bomb to prove to them that they didn't have good intelligence about what we actually had with nuclear material. Okay, so where were the nuclear processing centers located? They were located in Hanford, Washington. Why? Because it's on the Grand Coulee Dam system. It's on the dam system where you had all the power generation. It was extremely difficult to get enough power to run all the centrifuges to make the nuclear material. It was based on the Tennessee Valley Authority, the electric power generation system. That's the two places that they were doing it at. Okay, you're going to make electricity is critical to the processing. You have a relationship to DARPA and Department of Defense that already exists in those two locations and has since their inception, since the day they were built. It's the same thing now, using that where you're storing all the processing energy and time and everything else, and the Bitcoining and other mining operations. And then where do the Winklevoss twins go? Miraculously, they get the contracts to maintain the surplus power system.
To start Gemini and all that stuff.
Yes. So you're watching kabuki theater.
It's a movie.
So as soon as you understand that, now you have to question, okay, are they actually playing me? And I'm just being caught into the next phase of the operation. Now it becomes a situation where you have to say, okay, it's musical chairs. Somebody else is controlling the music. There's only so many chairs. Am I smart enough? Am I in cahoots enough somehow with the guys running the music that I can always get a chair? Because of course, as you come around the end of the line of chairs, you can get caught by surprise. If somebody's controlling the music, they can see who their buddy is that's right there, closest to be able to get a seat and has a better position. The person controlling the music can aid their person as long as they know that this is a game between them and send signals and do things like that. That's what's really going on here. So as soon as you kind of that word for that makes sense?
Totally. Now let me just say this. First of all, when it comes to the 17th movement, I think of you of one of the majestic 12 that's right there, one of the disciples right next to Trump. Okay. Bitcoin was an experiment basically gone bad because the housing crash happened when? In 2008. When did the Bitcoin was born? It was born in 2009. Let's go backwards. Can you hear me? Because I know your screen has frozen there.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay. David Schwartz. Yeah, David Schwartz. David Schwartz, which I believe is Satoshi Nakamoto. This is for your audience, okay? I want to educate your audience as well. David Schwartz, in 1988, puts a patent on blockchain technology. Okay, we're still in dial-up. Dial-up and blockchain technology don't marry up too well. Okay, fast forward, they know that they're in trouble. 2008, the housing bubble is going to come. They know they're in a lot of trouble. David Schwartz was an incredible programmer who's now the programmer of what? Ripple XRP. Goes to work at DARPA year 2000. He's the only guy that can get him out of trouble. They invent the proof of work, which you're right. Proof of work doesn't work. It's a disaster. Okay. So they go into what's called proof of stake, which is pre-mined coins. Okay. Which moves at lightning speed. XRP has moved trillions of dollars, could be scaled to 3.5 trillion transactions per second. It's already been proven. Anybody in the audience who wants to disprove me, you're more than welcome to, but don't waste your time. You'll find out that I'm absolutely 100,000% right. Okay. So they realized that the brick phone, which we created the brick phone to prove that we can create a brick phone back in the 90s. Okay. That doesn't work anymore. Nobody uses the brick phone anymore. No one's going to use Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to go to zero. So they had to move fast and, fix. The only guy that could fix it is the guy that built Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. I give you David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple. So they go back to the drawing board. These are pre-mined. They move it at the speed of light. Michael Arrington moves $50 million in exactly 2.8 seconds as a test 4 years ago. The story lives on the internet, okay? And it took exactly 2.8 seconds, and it cost him 30 cents. This is going to be the bus that drives Nassara Jassara. There's no question about it. Like I said, yes, DARPA and all these agencies, a lot of bad guys, they're losing. That technology is going to be won over by the good guys, and we're going to use it for good. There's my thought. By the way, you are the Majestic 12. You're the capo, the tutti capi.
The issue is that while we can say that there's good guys in there that may have a piece of what's going on, the contest is not over.
No.
And some things are not fully decided. And so even in the ranks, and this is part of the issue, let's just say for discussion's sake that President Trump had won 2020, or somewhere in the interim, even to this very moment, been placed back in office. Had that occurred, we would not have the understanding of who the various players are to this moment in time, because a lot of the players would have been still hidden. And I'll use this for an example. When the Iranians shot down one of our drones, it was actually the second one, because there was another one shot down previously that went down a place we don't want to talk about. And so they faked the crash of one of these drones up on Mount Shasta just for accounting purposes. And that's not where it went down. There was no parts and pieces up there, just a smoldering spot up in the hill for optics sake. So the Iranians shot down one, arguably two drones. And the decision was, you have got to show the Iranians how this works and who's in charge here. So finally, Trump succumbs. Okay, yeah, we got to do it. All right, drop the plans, get it all ready, but don't do a thing until I finally authorize this. But you can get it completely ready to go. But I have to approve it before anything leaves. So Bolton and buddies all work together. They're all rubbing their hands together. This is what we've dreamed about. Okay, we're going to get another war with Iran, and it's going to be epic, and it's going to change the face of the Mideast. And once he does one bombing run, he'll be locked in. He'll have to do the follow-up and the follow-up and the follow-up, a la Kennedy and Bay of Pigs. The setup is in play. Okay, they get all the way to the point they got literally the jets running on the decks of the carriers. They've got all of their targets in the sights. The Russians, the Chinese, they have satellites too. They can see what we're doing. And so they've flashed everything ready to go, and they're ready to launch to go take out the Iranian Navy and a number of missile sites like that, and it's on. Trump's there in his office. He's got Bolton and all of the generals and admirals and intelligence people, State Department people, all of them are there present, ready to, get going on this and have their, co-signed signatures there and get a pen, because this is when it started. It's Gulf War 4, bullshit.
Right.
Trump, as he's ready, he's got the pen out, ready to put pen to paper. And he says, by the way, I did say I wanted minimum human casualties. Okay. Especially to the civilian population. So have we been super careful to keep it to a minimum? Yes, sir, we certainly have. Well, what kind of a number are we expecting as far as human deaths from this attack that we're about to do in moments? Mr. President, we've got to roll. The Russians are ready to their satellites can form and see what's going on. We have got to go while we still have the elements. Well, but my question, I like 100, sir. 100, 200 tops. Okay, 1 to 200. That's what we expect in human casualties. But we've got to go, man, right now. Come on. And Trump sitting there for a second or two, and he asked one of the other people present, well, how much was that drone anyway? Oh, these guys are just wringing their hands. They're starting to get pissed. He's having a financial conversation when we're ready to go to war. Come on, man, let's sign this right now. Let's go. Well, no, how much did that drone cost? Oh, it was like 30 million, but we got lost too. It's like 60 million. These guys got to pay. Trump says to the people present after he's thinking about it for a second, gosh, and that's the least we can do is 100 dead. That's on the low side, maybe 200. I think one Iranian life is worth more than $30 million. We're a big country. We can absorb that. Let's find another way. He opens his desk drawer, puts his pen inside the desk drawer, closes it, and says, let's stand down. Now, what did he really do? First off, a few hours later, that was leaked to the public, and the press printed that. What did it do for the Iranian people? It let them know that President Trump, America, valued one Iranian life higher than the $30 million. The Iranian people know that they're a captured operation with mullahs and everything else. Their government isn't fully doing the will of the people. So Trump won a public relations contest that was worth way more than what he'd have got if he killed a few civilians and military people and all that. But more importantly, and this is the real critical side of what's going on, Bolton left the Trump administration shortly thereafter, livid, pissed off, embarrassed. Why? Because he played all of his military and intelligence agency contacts and secret handshake crowd friends even going into the World Economic and social media crowd, all of those secret agents, okay, his UN contacts. He played all the card contacts who were really trying to get
Yes.
in communication setup. It was much bigger. Had Trump acted quickly, super quickly, and or gone along with it, he wouldn't have exposed to the rest of the people that were in cahoots that were anti-Trump. Bolton got in there and they thought they had an insider that could play the game and do all this stuff, and the insider got exposed.
Oh, Bolton was recommended to. Okay, you're back. So anyway, yeah, Bolton was recommended by Hannity. Unfortunately, Trump is a very brilliant guy, but he listens to a lot of the wrong people. Hannity is a disaster. Okay, I think his son-in-law is a disaster. I have my opinions about that. I believe that he surrounded himself early on, but he made the corrections rather quickly because he's very quick on his feet. He's New York. Okay, I can tell you that we're gonna have to do a part 2 to this because this is epic. I want to switch gears with you a little bit. This, in my opinion, for the people who are paying very close attention, will understand that this thing is not going to happen as fast as we all want or all wish. Okay, this has been nothing more than dress rehearsal. Okay, it's getting us ready for the final crescendo. I think we might be in that final crescendo. 2024, in my opinion, and in Nino Rodriguez's opinion, a lot of people that are in the know, cannot happen. I don't think the country is sustainable enough. I've always said, you got to wake up the normies. You got to get the box of eggs up to $15 and the gallon of gas up to $12. Well, guess what? We're up to $11 for a box of eggs in California right now. We're $4 short. Okay, so 2024, in my opinion, cannot happen. I think Trump has got to figure out a way to get back before that. Your opinion, can we give the American people some real hope?
Well, I mean, it goes into the rest of the conversation I was just having. Do you want, and would it be wise for Trump himself personally to come in too soon? Because then as the train comes off the rails, the old thing, I remember going into the stores when I was a little kid, and one of the curio stores, pretty to look at, pretty to hold. But if you break it, it's sold, okay? If Trump's the guy at the helm as it completely comes off the wheels, it's going to be hard because everybody's going to want to point their fingers at him. Those people, right now, people trying to disavow any knowledge of who Biden is or how he got here or who he's tied to. And the reality is that we don't want to let them squirm away. We don't want to let them have a scapegoat, even with Biden squirming away and not having fully to own who he is and how he got into power and stayed in power and who's backing him behind the scenes. They're looking for a way to kick him to the curb and move forward, but there's risk for them. They didn't get it done soon enough. And, from Hillary forward, their timing has been screwed up, skewed, and they're still on their heels trying to recover from that. So at the end of the day, do we want to come in while there's still arguably who's responsible for what and how is what's about to happen, or do we want to let them own it? Now, to a lot of people, they would say, no, we got to fix this instantly. We got to fix it immediately. We got to come in and save and save and save. And the reality is, do we? And if you're trying to come in to a partially collapsed structure, you're going to stabilize it, rebuild it out. There's a point where, and your audience should be as tuned into this as anybody, there's a point where it's so unstable and it's so already damaged that you probably have to collapse it the rest of the way. Better to do it on their watch while they got a own responsibility than on ours. And if you have a replacement in place, is it a replacement that we completely, totally own and control, or is it partially owned and controlled by the bad guys? Part of the issue is, and your audience knows this as well as any, are we actually just going to rebuild the reserve system based on a digital currency, or are we going to wipe it out and come back to constitutional money in America? Does that operation, does that mechanism even exist as a possibility? And I will tell you that it will, and it does. The Constitution provides for one kind of money, that's gold and silver. Now, if you want to quantify the mechanism in which you can trade that in micro trades, digitally, etc., okay, well, I get that too. But that's not fully locked in play. Are we going to take on these monsters on how we conduct our transactions, or are we going to let them control the way those transactions are done. Let me just add one little thing because of where you're at. A lot of people think that the dollar's completely toast and that the BRICS is where this is all going to go and some digital component of that. With Brazil and other things going on, even with India going all digital, the reality is that this is not a done deal. And in this fight, from a Trump side, on the winning side of the fight, it'll be the dollar. We're not giving that up. We're not letting them collapse the American system so that they can own the build out in the future. We're not going to allow that. And if you think that that's in the cards and that's going to be allowed to happen, then you haven't been watching what Trump has been telling you the entire time. And by the way, Trump is now the proxy Speaker of the House. People wanted him as Speaker of the House. Wayne Allen Root talked about it extensively. We had dinner here a couple times over the last couple of months. And but the reality is that it's not quite. They had a certain understanding of what it should be. Well, they actually got it. They just didn't necessarily recognize it before it happened. And I would tell you that you're going to have something similar happen in the reset, but it's not quite what you've been sold. The momentum is there. The train crash is on its way, but the aftermath was sold to you by the people that put it in play. If you're going to say it was a captured operation to begin with, is it staying that way? If we're going to recapture it, are we just going to own what they planned to put in play? Or do we have a different plan, taking their momentum like a jujitsu move, converting their energy going a certain direction and converting that momentum to our use to throw them off base and out of control and own and control what's about to happen. It's a jujitsu move. It will not be what you've been sold. It's going to be amazing. Stand by.
Is it close?
It's happening right now. I mean, you're already seeing early moments of it. Look, with the investigations, with FTX being exposed, right. Remember, sure. Within the crypto community, that's where the McAfee situation was so critical. It could have gone either way. If they were going to continue to run prices up, then McAfee and what he had with the 32 terabytes, which again, captured operation, think Zuckerberg, the whole McAfee thing, he understood how he's being controlled. He was a prop. If you're going to go this way, catch 22, the 32 terabytes comes out and it's WikiLeaks 2.0 again through somebody, what are you going to do? Dig up the dead guy and kill him again? If you go the other way, which by the way, the JenniferMac.com, she's got an amazing oil print for sale over there of McAfee. Is one of my favorite pictures. One of my billionaire buddies who's a big crypto guy. Right. Put it on the wall of his office. He says, it's the best picture you've ever seen. So anyway, go take a look at it. But my point is that even there, people keep not understanding. They have their ruses and their figureheads, and then the other side has theirs also. And the game goes both ways. And, you think a person did, but they're all people with masks. These are all people with illusions of their history and who they are that have been worked through and played through for very specific reasons. Look, doors in all of the very agents, they had doors for just the right time. And so that's why he exploited that to get the 32 terabytes with some help. And that's the whole whacked theme. It was a catch-22. If they raised crypto prices to a certain point, whacked came into play. They took out their own crypto pricing so it wouldn't hit the numbers that were dialed in on the McAfee side. So that exposed them on the collapse of these crypto exchanges like FTX. They still want to do that, but now they're playing catch up. This is a contest. This is chess at multiple levels. The house is one level of the chess game. The cryptos and the financials, another level of the chess game. The military is another level of the chess game. You're seeing chess in multiple dimensions, and there's interaction between the boards because certain things that happen in the military side. That's even the problem they have over at Davos. They missed their timing, and now they're trying to regain their balance in the ranks of the troops. The reason you had some of the leaders lying about whether they were going to be there or not, showing up when they said they weren't, or not showing up when they said they were, vice versa, is because in the rank and file at Davos, they were getting hammered with, what are we going to do? How's this going to work out? What are we going to do to recapture the flag here or get the control position? Because they're getting hammered at the local level.
Totally.
And a number of them are having to step aside because they're being exposed when they fully committed, and when things didn't happen when they were supposed to, bam, they just blew a valve out of cylinder 5. Now they're only operating on 15 cylinders instead of 16. Bam, there went another valve out of cylinder 4. The machine is coming apart. Do we go in and take control of this at this critical moment, or do we let them blow every cylinder in their machine? And is the repair something that we are going to fix their mechanism, or is it better to do a controlled landing, not under full power, even gliding if we have to, and then start with the new machine completely? And I believe that you're going to find that we're going to go back to the original. They stole the American system right in plain sight.
Yes.
Constitutional money is going to do just fine and go up radically against the value of their fiat currencies, whether it's paper or digital. When it comes to actual transactions, yes, we may use an XRP because it's what works.
It's fast.
But it will be within a system.
Yes, of course.
It will be within a system that we own and control and run.
Brother,
we do not fully own or control that.
Brother, promise me we could do a part 2 because this was epic, and the next part is going to be even more epic. Can I ask Amy Seaver for your contact information? Because I'd like to get the video to your people as well. Number one. Number two, I hope we're not having this conversation in 2025, 2026, because I think we're close to winning. I'm basically hearing you say is this, in closing, we got to let the engine completely burn out and let the people witness that the engine no longer works, and then the people will rise and boom, we get our government back. Am I hearing you correctly?
Well, yeah, we are. This is happening now. There's a lot of moving parts here. You have to maintain a certain amount of momentum so you have steerage. If you don't have forward momentum, you go into the stall.
Yes.
We don't want a complete dead stop stall, and that's what a lot of people are envisioning. But that there is no acceptable losses.
Totally.
Amongst our population. Okay. So in doing what has to be done, we need to be very aware. Just like President Trump said, one Iranian life is worth more than $30 million. Okay. And so he wouldn't do this catastrophic move that would have moved us into a war in the Mideast that would not be done even now.
Right. Right.
Doing what has to be done because the train crash has already been timed in.
Yes. I'm on the
too
same
much
page, brother.
To pull out it's complete.
By the way, I'm ready.
So I'll look. Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I am ready for prime time. I'm not the best interviewer in the world, but I definitely don't suck anymore. I used to suck really bad. Okay. I need to take it to the next level. I'm ready for any of the Trumps, including the Don. I'm serious. I'm that cocky already. Because I sort of figured it out. You know what I mean? If I can make the best pizza in the world, which I used to, I could figure out podcasting. I think I've come a long way. Brother, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I really would love to have you back next week for a part 2 if you want to come back early.